Hello and welcome to Grammar Bites. In this video, we'll look at relative clauses. Relative clauses clarify and give information about things, people, and places. Emma is the girl who works at a clothes shop. She sells clothes which are made from recycled materials. The shop where she works is on the main road. In the first example, the relative clause gives information about a person. In the second one, it explains the things, and in the third one, it identifies a place. The relative clause comes after the noun and starts with a relative pronoun such as who, which, where, or when. The man who robbed the bank has gone to prison. Here, the relative pronoun who refers to the noun, the man, and it comes right after the noun. Who describes people. He robbed the bank where he used to be a customer. Here, where refers to the noun, the bank. Where describes places. The money which he stole was found at a hotel. Which refers to the money. Which describes things. He said he would never forget the day when he heard the police sirens outside his door. When refers to the day. When describes time. Other common relative pronouns are whose and why. She is the author whose books have been translated into 12 languages. Whose describes possession. I know the reason why they had an argument at work. Why describes the reason. We use the relative pronoun that to replace which or who. The Volkswagen Beetle is a car which or that was designed and produced in Germany in the 1930s. Lisa is my friend who or that dropped out of university and started working at a cafe. The relative pronoun can be the subject of a relative clause. The man who lives next door is a famous singer. We can separate this sentence as the man lives next door. He is a famous singer. We can see that who refers to the man, which is the subject of the sentence. The relative pronoun can also be the object of a relative clause. The man who I met yesterday is a famous singer. Again, when we separate this sentence as I met a man yesterday, he is a famous singer. We can see that who refers to a man, but in this example, a man is the object of the sentence. Notice that subject relative clauses are followed by a verb, and the object relative clauses are followed by subject plus verb. We can omit the relative pronouns who, which, or that when they are the object of the relative clause. The man who or that I spoke to had a lovely Australian accent. Here we can drop the pronouns who or that. The man I spoke to had a lovely Australian accent. Both sentences are correct. Another example. The old house which or that we visited was built in 1940. The old house we visited was built in 1940. Again, we drop the pronouns which or that, and both forms are possible. Remember that we cannot omit the relative pronoun when it is the subject of the relative clause. For example, there are different viruses which or that cause the influenza. Here, the pronouns which or that are referring to the subject, so we cannot leave them out. And we can't say there are different viruses cause the influenza. That's wrong. We need to keep the relative pronouns which or that. Here is an example dialogue. Look, the police caught the man who had stolen a painting from the museum. Really? Did they find a painting? Not yet, but he said he'd sold it to someone he'd met online. Relative clauses can either be defining or non-defining. Defining relative clauses define the noun in the main clause. They tell you which one is being discussed. I have 3 sisters. My sister who lives in London works for the BBC. Here, who lives in London is a defining relative clause because it answers the question, which sister, and the information is necessary. Non-defining relative clauses give extra information about the noun in the main clause, and they can be omitted. Beijing, which is the capital city of China, attracts visitors from across the globe. 2022 Winter Olympics were held in Beijing, which is the capital city of China. Here, which is the capital city of China is a non-defining relative clause in both sentences because the information is non-essential and it can be omitted. And the sentence will still make sense. Notice that we use commas to separate non-defining relative clauses from the rest of the sentence. We cannot omit pronouns in non-defining relative clauses. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which was published in 1997, was Rowling's debut novel. We can't say Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was published in 1997, so we cannot drop the pronoun which in the relative clause. We need to keep it. Also, we don't use the pronoun that in non-defining relative clauses. The actor Gottfried, who is known for his role in Aladdin, has died after a long illness. The actor Gottfried that is known is incorrect. Note that non-defining relative clauses are usually formal. We use them mainly in writing and they are common in news reports. For example, Rob Smith, who is accused of shooting his neighbor, turned himself in yesterday. The only eyewitness, Mrs. Martin, who was outside when the shots rang out, said Smith had started argument with neighbors before. Smith's house, which is located on Acorn Street, is now surrounded by journalists. In informal spoken English, we put the preposition at the end of the relative clause. That's the train that I've been waiting for. I saw the man you were talking about. In formal English, it is possible to put the preposition before the relative pronoun. Politics is a subject about which we know very little. The relative pronoun who changes to whom after a preposition. The project manager is the person from whom I obtained the sales report. We don't use a preposition before where, when, or why, but where can be used as which, in. That's the house where Gandhi lived, or that's the house which Gandhi lived in. Here is an example of a formal speech. I would like to thank the member states of the European Union with whom we share common goals. There are important decisions about which we would like to inform the public. Now it's your turn. Please check the link below for extra practice. Have a good day!